to IRS YouTube channel. So in this section, we'll be looking at arithmetic and geometric progression. So this course will be useful for 100 level students and ND1 students, including JAMB and WAEC students. So we'll be looking at this course and examine some calculations and formulas in this course. Then IRS is here to simplify the course for you so that it's not something difficult at all. So now before we move on, you know the IRS idea that we always like to explain the concepts before going to formulas or calculations, because in any calculation topics in mathematics, there's a concept behind it, there's an explanation behind it. So before then, let me explain the concepts to you before we look at some questions to solve and simplify this particular topics for you. So the first thing we are looking at is progression. And now before moving to that, don't forget that arithmetic progression, it is denoted as AP. And geometric progression, it is simply known as what? GP. So at times, if I'm saying AP and GP, you should know that when I mention AP, I'm simply talking about arithmetic progression. Then when I'm talking about GP, you should know that I'm talking about geometric progression. So now, before we move on, let's look at the concept of progression. Progression. Well, so majority of people, they believe that when you see something progression, or when you say progressive, they always believe that it means an increase. No. The progression does not actually mean an increase in all time. It can be either increasing or decreasing. That's the concept and the idea behind progression. Progression can either be increasing or something can be decreasing, and it means that there is progress. That's what I'm trying to say. And at the same time, something can be increasing and it means that there is no progress. For example, let's use inflation as an example. Inflation is a paralysis that affects the economy. So if inflation is increasing, can you call that one a progress? No, it is not. But if inflation is falling, reducing, decreasing, then we can now say that, okay, there is progress. Let's look at the health sector, or looking at health as an example. So if you are not feeling well and they want to check your temperature after some medical attention or whatsoever, so if they want to text if there's a progress in your health status and they ask that what is your temperature, so if they are telling us that your temperature is increasing, that is not the progress. But you can have a progress when your temperature is normal or reducing. Please, I hope you understand what I'm saying. So the idea coming from progression here is that progression can mean an increase or decrease. It can simply mean a positive or negative. In fact, something can be negative at the same time and it means what? It means progression. For example, when they test someone for HIV and the person results come out negative, that means it's a good thing. It doesn't mean being negative always indicate that it's a bad thing. So that's the idea behind what we call progression. So therefore, I'll be looking at the arithmetic. Then this progression, the difference between AP and GP is indicated from this what we call progression. Now we know that there's a progression. We know that there's an increase. Either it is an increase or decrease. One of it is going to happen. But at what rate is it increasing? And at what rate is it decreasing? That's your progression. That's what we are talking about. And that is where the idea of arithmetic and geometric is coming out. So if the increase or decrease, it is persistent or it is slow, we are talking about arithmetic progression. But if the progression or the increasing or decreasing rate we are talking about, it is in hyper, it is in high rate, that's what we call geometric progression. And that is with a divine rule. There's a divine rule that indicates the increase and the decrease or the persistence or the rate of an increase or decrease in AP and GP. And when the relationship between the rates, let me put it that way, when the relationship between the rate is either positive or negative, it's either plus or minus the rate of increasing of the sequences, and the relationship there is plus or minus, that means we are dealing with AP. That means we are dealing with AP. But if the relationship or the rule that divides the sequences is multiplication and division, then we are talking about what we call geometric progression, which is what? GP. So the introduction of arithmetic and geometry associating with progression is telling us at what rate is it increasing? At what rate is it decreasing? If the increase or decrease is at hyper level, then we can now be talking about this is geometric progression. But if it is gradually, then we can now be talking about arithmetic progression. Let me use a general price level as example. Let's look at the price of a particular goods as example. Price of particular goods. If the price is increasing from 5 naira to 10 naira to 13 naira, then to 17 naira, the rate of increase here is just persistent. Then I can deduce from these sequences that I can deduce from this sequence that we are running at AP. But if you have a situation whereby the increase in price is from 5 naira and range from 5 naira towards 50 naira, and the next time you check, you're having something like 150. The next time you check, you're having something like 300 naira. This is so at hyper rate. So we can associate this with geometric progression. So under the conceptual idea about arithmetic and geometric progression, this is a little I can explain to you before we go into calculation or the application of AP and GP. Then, before we move on, I would like to explain one important concept to you too. And the important concept is the sequences and series. Sequences and series. Sequences and series. When you have a number like 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on, these numbers you have here, is what we refer to as sequences. A sequences is a set of number with a divine rule. A sequences is a set of number with a divine rule that have a common difference. That have a common difference or common ratio. Because in GP, we call it common ratio. In AP, it is called common difference. So the list of numbers here is what we call sequences. Then if you are looking at the differences there is going to be constant. That's what I'm trying to say. The differences between the sequences must be constant. And that's why it's going to be sequences. So if you look at the difference between 2 and 4 is 2. The differences between 4 and 6 is 2. The differences between 6 and 8 is also 2. And this will mean by it is binded by a divine rule with a difference that the difference is actually constant. And that's what we call sequences. But series is a sum of sequences. Series is a sum of sequences. I can't say more than that. Series is a sum of sequences. So with this, I believe that you will be able to understand the concepts behind AP and GP. So let's look at some basic example, to simplify this thing for ourselves. So in real world, how does AP and GP works? Then what is the essence of AP and GP? AP and GP is actually to make something easy for us, or the calculation easy for us, instead of us going to manual method. What do I mean by manual method? The manual method is that when you are given a sequences like this, 2, 4, 6, and in these sequences, the first number is known as the first term. First term, which we represent by what we call letter A. That's the first term. Then the second one you have here will be second term, third term, and so on. Now, the importance of AP is that you can ask to look for the fourth term. This place that's unknown is fourth term, because after the first term, second term, third term, the next one we are going to have is fourth term. Now, instead of you now be stressing yourself and be adding 2 to 6 to know that the final answer you are going to get for the fourth term is 8. But the importance of arithmetic is that in this case, we are not going to tell you to look for the fourth term, but they are going to tell you to look for 199th term. Do you know how long that is going to take you to start adding 2 to the number so that you get the next term? So that's going to take you a lot of journey and a lot of stress. And now AP come into the picture and give you a formula to simplify it without stressing yourself. And the formula for the AP to find the number of 10. Formula for AP. For AP to find the number of 10, no matter the 10th number you are asked to find. The formula is, you can represent as UN, and it's going to be A plus N minus 1D. While your A here is denoted as what? The first 10. And your N is the number of 10 that you are looking for. The number of 10 that you are looking for. And your D is the common difference. Your D is the common difference. So I want us to use the fourth time as an example, because by using this formula already, we all know that, and you also know that, the fourth time is going to be 8, because the difference here is constant. The difference here is just 2. And what is the relationship between the difference? Is it positive and negative? That one is also important. You check after knowing that, okay, this is the difference. Is it positive difference or negative difference? So what I mean is it positive difference is that you have the difference between 4 and 2 here is 2. And that means if I add 2 to this, that is plus 2, I'm going to have something like 4. If I add 2 to this plus 2, I'm going to have 6. So that means the relationship here, my common difference here is positive 2. You can have a negative common difference. You have to be careful about that. So now, with the formula here and the explanation to the unknown value that is given us in this formula, then I can now explain. I can now solve this question. Assuming the question said find the fourth term. Now that's what we are asked to find. So we need to apply this formula to find the fourth term, because we know that in a normal sense, immediately you add 2 to this 6, you are going to get the next time, which is going to be 8. Then now you look for this. I want to solve this question now. So I'm using this particular formula to find the number of term of an AP. So what I'm going to do, since n, then let's just get the value for this. So according to these sequences, my first term, which is A, is going to be 2, because this is the first number. Then what's the next thing? The n, which is the number of term. So which number of term am I looking for? I'm looking for the fourth term. So that's going to be 4. Then another thing, what is my common difference? What is the difference between these sequences? The difference between the sequences is also 2. And this is what you need to find to solve this particular number of term of an AP. You first look for what are the value for this unknown value in the formula. So you need to find your A, and in the question you have already gotten your A as the first number. You need to find your N, and in the question you have already gotten your N as the number of 10 you are actually looking for, and the D, which is the common difference, is that what is the constant difference between them? You are looking for that one too, which is going to be 2. Then let's apply the formula. If I have to apply the formula, I'll be having U4, because the 4 here is the N. equals to what's in here? A, which is the first term, and we know that our first term here is 2. They have 2 plus, you open the bracket. What's your n again? And your n is 4. 4 minus 1. Then what's the common difference? Which is 2. So when simplify this, my final answer must be 8 because that's what I'm looking for. So let's solve this. So this is 2 plus 4 minus 3. 4 minus 1. You are going to have 3 here. Then you have 2 outside. Bodman's rule. You solve the bracket first. You solve for the bracket first. Then you multiply this. You multiply 3 by 2 so that you can open the bracket. So if you multiply 3 by 2, so I'm having 2 plus 6. Because 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. Then 2 plus 6 will give me what? 8. That means the fourth term. The fourth term you are looking for here is 8. Is 8. Is it? And that is the essence of this formula. So this would be an easiest and the best way to solve these questions when you are asked to look for about 200 terms. If you have to look for 200 terms, it will be so stressful for you, even in exam or in your in-jam question or as a 100 level student. So that's look for the 10th term without applying formula. In fact, if you are given about 2 hours or 3 hours, you will still be on that thing before the time elapses and start adding until you get to the 200 times. But with that 200 times, with this simple formula, once you can apply this formula, you get the exact value that's supposed to be the 200 or 1010, no matter how long the question is. So I hope with this you understand how to find the number of times of an AP. You should be able to understand that. So I will be looking at some questions for you, which I prepared for this class, to simplify this particular course for us. So here, with the question I have with me here, the question says we should find the 8th term. Find the 8th term where the sequences of the AP is -4, -2, 0, and so on to infinity. So this is a question, another question for us. So we have to solve this question. And the first thing you need to do is to know the formula. So in order for us to solve this question, you first need to state your formula. And by stating your formula, you'll be having the UN equals to A plus into bracket n minus 1 close the bracket D. So in the sequences, the first thing you need to find is that what is your first term? And here, this is my first term, which is what? -4. And the next thing you have to know is that what is your n? That is, what is the term that you are eventually looking for? And my n is what? 8. So then here, I'll be having what? 8. Then the next thing you need to know is what is your common difference, which is D. Then I'll need to know my D. Then what's my D? So the common difference here is also 2. Because this is -4. -4 plus 2 will give you -2. -2 plus 2 will give you 0. So what am I saying? If you have +2 here, that means you have +2 and 4 negative. And when they interact, the final answer you have here is what? -2. And this one is +2. It's just like you have -2 plus 2. It's going to be 0. So to get the next term, this is going to be -2 plus 2 is 0. Therefore, our common difference here is also 2. And now, this is first, second, and third. And somewhere here will be fourth term. Somewhere here will be fifth term, sixth term, seventh term, and eighth term. So we are looking for the term here. So by the time you start adding 2 to this thing till you get to the 8th term, you will get the value. And when you get the value, when we apply the formula to, we are going to get the same value that you get when you approach this question manually by adding the common difference. So let's see, are we going to get the same thing? So now, what I'm going to do here is that, let's apply this formula. If I'm applying this, you already know that this one is going to be U8. Then U8 was my first term, -4. Then plus, what is the number of term? The number of term we are looking for is 8 minus 1. Then, the common difference is also 2. So by doing so, I'm going to have -4 plus 7, because 8 minus 1 gives you 7, 2. Then you need to open the brackets by multiplying 7 times 2. So here we have -4 plus 14. So -4 plus 14 here, I'm going to have 10. That means my U8, the number of term for the 8th year, is going to give me what? 10. Let's see, if you apply this manually, are we going to get that 8? So I'm trying to show you the essence of this formula. Instead of you going to the manual process that's going to consume your time, then you can just apply the formula and get whatever you are looking for. So let's look at this. So since we know that the common difference is just 2, then you can just add 0 plus 2 here too. I'm going to get what? I'm going to get 2. Then 2 plus 2 will also give me what? 4. Then 4 plus 2 will give me what? 6. 6 plus 2 here will give me what? 8. Then 8 plus 2 here will give me what? 10. That's the number of the 8th term, even if you are not applying the formula. But the formula is very, very useful to us when we are looking for something like 210 terms. Imagine this. If you have to look for 210 times, that means I'm telling you to be adding 2 to whatever value that is here till you get to 210 times. It's going to be stressful. In fact, you are going to get that along the way. But instead of that, we have a formula that I've simplified that for you, thanks to mathematics. So let's look at some other way that you can have questions under AP and GP. So if you need all these questions, as you are watching it, you can just pause it and write the question down and practice it on your own. So now don't forget to share, subscribe and comment on the comment section. Please kindly subscribe. That is what is encouraging us to, to keep doing this. So now, let's look for any other question I have for you. Okay. Here is another question. We have the first term of AP. The first term of AP. The first term of an AP. So the first term of an AP is -1. And the common difference, the common difference is 0.5. 0.5. So find the sixth term. So the question is, you should find the sixth term. And this question is a very straightforward question. So here we are not given the sequences. What we are given is our first term is -1, Our first term is -1, and our D is 0.5. And we are looking for this, the sixth term. And this number of term, which is n, is 6. So this is a very straightforward question. So what you just need is that your formula that you know, just put it down, that UN equals to A plus, you open the brackets, n minus 1, D. Then that means I'm looking for U6. Then the U6 here, what's the first term? The first term here is -1. Plus, what's the number of term? The number of term here is 6 minus 1. Then our common difference is 0.5. And don't forget, the fraction of 0.5 is 1/2. We can go with that. So, in that case, I'm going to be having something like this. Then I'll have -1 plus 6 minus 1 is going to give me 5. Then I'm going to have 5 multiplied by 1/2. So if you use 5 to multiply this, then I can say I have -1 plus 5/2. Don't forget, this 5 will multiply this one. Then I'm going to have 5/2. Then, your normal GSS1, LCM, whatever you want to use. Don't forget that this one is going to be over 1, and this one is going to be 2. So 1 here is 2. 2 times 1 here, I'm going to have -2. Then plus 1 here is 1. I'm going to have what? 5. Then can I have -2 plus 5 is going to give you 3/2. So that means the number of terms for the 6 is going to be 3/2. It's going to be 3/2. And it's something that you can also turn into what? A decimal point, like the question we have here. So let's look for another likely question. But before we move on, I want to explain something to you. Before we move on, I want to explain, because there are some set of questions in AP and GP that will lead to what we call simultaneous equation. It leads to what we call simultaneous equation. And fundamentally, you need to understand this before we move to any question that's going to lead to simultaneous equation. For example, if I'm talking about first term, your first term is A. But if I'm talking about the second term here means 2, right? So that means what you are going to have here is going to be what? A plus D. You will just, subtract whatever that's going to be coefficient of D by 1. This thing is going to be less than by 1 with the term that you are dealing with. I don't know how I'm going to simplify this explanation for you. Again, let's look at this. Let's look at the third term. The third term will now be A plus 2D. That is, whatever that's going to be the coefficient of D must be less than the term you are dividing by 1. Must be less than the term you are dividing by 1. For example, let's move to another one. Fourth term. Let's go for the fourth term. That means for the first time, we're going to have A plus 3D. Now, what I'm trying to say is that whatever that's going to be here, whatever that's going to be the coefficient of D must be less than the term you are dividing by 1. Because the term that I'm dividing here is 4. Then the coefficient of D here is going to be 3. So what leads to this? If you apply the normal formula and your first term and common difference is unknown, you will get this. Let's assume that I'm looking for the fourth term. And I want to apply this formula, that A plus n minus 1 D. Don't forget that our n is 4. But the A and D is unknown. I'm going to arrive at this answer. Let's do it. So if I further with this question now, I'm going to have A plus 4 minus 1 D. Because the n term is known, but A and D is unknown. Then at this point, I'm going to have something like A plus 3 into bracket D. Then your final answer is what? A plus 3D. And that is the logic behind this process that you're looking at. So if paraventure I'm telling you to look for the 10th term, then the 10th term will be A plus 9D. The 100th term will be A plus 99D. It's as simple as that. It is as simple as that. So I'm explaining this concept to you because when we get to a situation whereby we need to apply them, solving them by using simultaneous equation, this is the best method to go about it. So let's move to the next question we have. So the question I have here is the fifth term. The fifth term and the 10th term. The 5th term of an AP are the 5th term of an AP are 0 and 10 respectively. 0 and 10. Let me quote them. 0 and 10 respectively. So let's see what they want us to do. They said we should find the common difference. So the question is to find the common difference. Which means to solve this question now, we need to find D. We need to find D. And if you look at this question very well, we are not given the sequences. We are not given the first term and we are not given the second term. But we are given the value we are going to get when we want to apply the 5th term and 10th term. Now, what I explained to you earlier, this is where you are going to apply it. The first thing is to know that the 5th term is 0. Automatically, my 5th term here will be A plus, let me put it this way. My U5 is going to be A plus 4D. Don't forget that. Then my U10 is going to be A plus 9D. So, but they said the U5 and the 10th term is 0 and 10 respectively. That means my 5th term is 0 and my 10th term is 10. That's what they are trying to explain to us. And this is what we refer to as simultaneous equation. So this is equation 1 and this is equation 2. So sorry, I'll need to rub off this so that we have enough space to do our solution. So here, we have the two equations now. The first equation is A plus 4D equals to 0, which is going to be our equation 1. Then A plus 9D equals to 10, which is denoted as our equation 2. So what we need to do now is to find A and D. Although our motive for this question is to find the D, which is the common difference. So to solve this question now, we can use, simultaneous equation, you have any method. We have substitution method, we have simultaneous method, we have elimination method, sorry. Substitution method, elimination method, then we have almighty formula using we use almighty formula under the quadratic, sorry. But this you can also use matrices to solve it. When we have class for matrices, I'll show you how you can use matrices to solve simultaneous equation. But here, let's use the elimination method. So we apply elimination method shows that we cancel the one, we apply the relationship to the negative. So that if we use negative to affect this equation, when we now have A minus A is going to give us 0. This we cancel this. This is simultaneous equation using elimination method. So we apply negative to affect all. So the end shows that this we cancel this because A minus A will give me what? 0. So in this place now, we now said subtract equation 1. We subtract equation 1 from equation 2. So that means what I'm trying to say here is that we are going to have something like 9D minus 4D equals to. So in this place we have 10 minus 0. So if you have, let me write this. So that means I'm going to have something like 5D because 4 minus 9 will give me 5 and this one remains 0. Then the next thing to do is to divide both sides by 5. So dividing both sides by 5, my D is going to give me 2. So that means the common difference here is 2. The common difference in this question is 2. So you can find your A2, which is the first term, by substituting 2 in any of these equations. So if I substitute 2 in any of these equations, I'll be able to find my first term at the same time. So to get my first term, I can use using equation 1. Using equation 1. So what's the equation 1? Equation 1 is A plus 4D equals to 0. So for me to get my A, I can now have A plus 4 into bracket 2, which is my common difference, equals to 0. Then 4 times 2 will give me what? 8. I have plus 8 equals to 0. Then you collect the like times, then A is going to be what? Minus 8. The first term to this question is minus 8. The first term to this question is minus 8. So what is that for this question? What is that for this question? So let's look at another question that I have here. So let's move to the application of AP question. So this is an application of AP question. So BMATs, economic students, BSADMI students, institutional accounting students is very important for you. The application of arithmetic progression question. So the question I have here is that the first winner in a lottery, the first winner in a lottery gets 2,000 naira. Gets 2,000 naira. And subsequent winner gets 50 naira lesser than the preceding one. 50 naira than the preceding one. So the question is, find what the 20th winner gets. This is the question. This is an application question, and it is a very simple question. It's as simple as what you just have to do here is to apply the AP formula. What the question wants us to find is the 12th term. What does the 12th person get? So solving this question now, to solve this question, I'm using UN equals to A plus N minus 1D. And the question I've already stated that the first winner of the lottery gets 2,000. That means this is what the first winner gets, and that is my first term. So my first term here is 2,000, which is my head. Then my common difference is minus 50 because it is less than, it is not as if it is more than, it is less than. That means minus 50. So if the first winner is getting 2,000, so 2,000 minus 50 will be what the second position person is going to get. So but now in this case, we are looking for what the 20th winner is going to get. Then my end is now going to be 20. So for me to get what the 20th winner is going to get, I need to apply this formula now. So I will now be having U20 equals to the first term, which is 2,000, plus what is my head? My head is 20 minus 1. Then I'll be having minus 50 here. So the minus 50 I'm going to have, then here I'm going to have 20,000 plus 19. Then 19 I'll be having, let me bracket the 19 times minus 50. This guy. So 2,000. So now you need to look for the multiplication of 19 times minus 50 so that we can know what the next person is going to get. So this is very simple. Here we have 2,000 plus minus 950. So when you multiply 19 times minus 50, you arrive at this. Then your final answer is going to be 2,000 minus 950 plus minus times plus is going to give you minus. So you have 1,550. This is what you have. You have 1,550. So in 1,050 naira, sorry, I mean 1,015 naira. That is what you have. So this is the application. So quick one. I will move to the sum of AP, and with just one example to explain the sum of AP bracket. So this is the question used for sum of an AP. So the difference between the sum of an AP and AP is going to identify itself through the questions given to you. So for example, let's look at let me give you an example. As we have 2, 4, 6, and we have to look for the sum of the fourth term. Already know that the fourth term is 8. But if you are looking at the question, let's differentiate the question. Let's look at the first question is find the sum. Let's say the first question is find the fourth term. And the second question is find the sum of the fourth term. This is two different questions. Now, this one, when you see the word find the sum, you are using this formula, please. But without sum, this sum alone are differentiate the two questions. So without the sum, if you are looking at find the fourth term, that means we just have interest in knowing the fourth term value. You don't have interest in knowing the sum of the first fourth term. So if I'm telling you the sum of the first fourth term, that means I need addition from 2 down to the term that is here. That is addition of the 2 from the fifth term. From year to year is the sum of the fourth term. Rather. So if you have to find this fourth term itself, you are using the original formula because you are just looking for the number of terms. It is not the sum of the fourth term. So here you are just going to use your initial formula, which is A plus N minus 1, then D. But in a situation whereby you have the sum of the fourth term, we are using this formula. So we know that the term here is 8 if you are using the normal first formula based on the previous examples I've given to you. So but now the sum of fourth term, I'm applying this formula to solve it. So if I want to apply this formula to solve it, I'll try to manage this place because I don't want to clean it up. So I want to apply this formula to solve it. So my S4 will now be N. What's the N that we are looking at? The fourth term that we are looking at. So that will be 4 over 2. Then you are going to have 2A. The first term is also 2. Then plus my N is 4 minus 1. Don't forget this is N. Then you close the bracket. D is also 2. The common difference is also 2. So with this question now, you can now have 4 divided by 2. You have 2 here. Into the big bracket 2 times 2 you have 4. Then plus here you are going to have 3. 4 minus this you have 3. Then into bracket 2 here. So in this sense, I'm going to have 2. 4 plus 3 is going to give me what? 7. So 7 times 2 here, I'm going to have 14. So that means I have 14 times 2. And 14 times 3 is going to give me 28. That means the sum of the fourth term is 78. It's 28. The sum of the fourth term is 28. I told you that GP is geometric progression. So, but in GP is the same thing as AP. But what I just want to know is that the two formula for we have formula for GP to be what? AR raised by N minus 1. So here our A still remains the first term. Our R, the difference there is that the R is now common ratio. Because this place, the relationship we are looking at is either multiplication or division. That's why it is common ratio, not common difference. Then your N still remains what? The number of term. N still remains number of term. So in this section 2, we'll be looking at both the sum of GP and AP. So if it is the aspect of sum of GP, Sum of GP have two distinct formula. So you have under sum of GP, you have xn equals to a into bracket r minus r raised power n minus 1 over r minus 1. There's a condition for you to use this formula. If you want to use this formula, this indicates that your r is greater than 1. The common ratio must be greater than 1. Then if you want to use the alternate formula, you have a raised power n raised power minus 1. Then the alternate formula would be 1 minus r raised power n, 1 minus 1. So this shows that r is less than 1. So here, where you can use this is when r is greater than 1. Where you can use this is when r is less than 1. So the same concept is applicable to them. Don't forget that the definition, the concept of GP is the rate of increase, which the relationship between them is multiplication or division. The relationship between the sequences is multiplication or division. So let's look at some 1 or 2 questions under GP. So I'll just use one question to explain GP and the sum of GP. Don't forget the two formulas are the same, but just depends on how you apply them. So let's solve this question now. Let's say the sequences is let's start from let me use this 2, 4, 8, 16. And the question states that we should find the question you should find the fifth term of GP. That's question 1. And the question 2 says that find the sum of the fifth term. So this is where the question is. So this question is going to solve the issue of for you to looking for the term and the issue of sum of the fifth term. So if you want to solve this question looking for the term, so the first question, solutions to the first question is that you have this. The formula is un equals to a raised by r minus 1. So my a is my first term, which is 2. Okay. Then my common ratio means the difference. What's the difference between this is times 2. 2 times 2 give you 4. 4 times 2 give you 8. 8 times 2 give you 16. So the relationship like this means it is 2. Then 2 raised power n, which is the term we are looking for, 2 raised power 5. So that's going to be 2 raised power 5 minus 1. So if you have this 2 raised power 5 minus 1, then that means I'll be having what? 2 raised power 2 raised power 4. So when we say 2 raised power 4, you mean 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 raised power 4 here means you need 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 will give you 4, 4 times 2 will give you 8, so that is going to give you 16. That means you have 2, you have 2 times 16. So the 2 times 16 here will give you 32. So therefore, the number of the fifth term is what? 52. That means what we are going to indicate here is going to be what? 32. That's for GP. Then for the sum of GP. So what is going to determine the formula, one of the two formula, which one am I going to use? Am I using the first formula or the second formula? It depends on the R, which is the common ratio. So in a situation whereby the R is greater than 1 or the R is less than 1. So what's our R here? Our R in this question, which is the common ratio, is 2, which indicates that this 2 means that R is greater than 1. So when R is greater than 1, I'll be using this first formula that states that you have this over R minus 1. So that is when your common ratio is greater than 1. So and in this case now, to find the sum of this, I'll be looking at S5 equals to what's my first time? My first time is 2. You open the bracket. Then what's the common ratio? The common ratio here is also 2. That will be 2 raised to power 5 minus 1 over, raised to power 5 minus 1 over 2 minus 1. So what you have to do, let me just continue the solution here. So what you have to do here is to find that we have 2 into bracket 32, because 2 raised to power 5 is going to give us 32. Then minus 1 all over 2 minus 1. So here I'll be having 2 into bracket 31. When you subtract this over 1, then that means your final solutions to this is going to be 62. So the sum of the fifth term is 52. So kindly note the difference, like I explained to you under the AP, that this is going to indicate the difference. Then the other one is infinite, sum of infinite GP. But then I'll give you the formula, or the formula you need for these questions when the question comes in this way. So I'll be dropping some questions in the comment section. So kindly work them out, use them as practice. If you have any questions, just drop your questions in the comment sections too. So you see the formula under this AP and GP is for you to know that number of 10 for AP is going to give you UN A plus N minus 1 D. So number of 10 for GP is going to give you UN A R N minus 1. So then for sum of AP, you have Sn equals to N over 2, 2A plus N minus 1 D. Then for sum of GP, and that's why I'm telling you, you have two alternate formula here. And that's decided by R. So n equals to what? A is bracket R raised to power n minus 1 over R minus 1. This is when R is greater than 1. Or you use this. Sn equals to A brackets 1 minus R over n over 1 minus over 1 minus R. This is when R is less than 1. So, but for infinite series, for the infinites, if you need this one too, which the sign is this. So sum of infinites. So you have this, that's A over 1 minus R. You just need the first term and you need the what? The common ratio to solve that. So this is going to be the end of AP and GP class. So thanks for watching and be with us from the beginning to the end. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to your friends and whosoever that's going to benefit. So I'm going to send the questions to your comment section where you can practice and solve and ask questions. So thank you.